Good morning and welcome. My name is Deb and welcome to my channel. On this channel we talk about spirituality, spiritual awakening, and being an empath. Today I'm going to talk about what is a spiritual awakening and give you a little background about my spiritual awakening, my story, and how I got here. My spiritual awakening happened in 2019, in the beginning of 2019. And usually a spiritual awakening occurs when something major happens in your life. Some people get triggered into a spiritual awakening by a chaotic event, a car accident, a near-death experience, something major that shifts your whole entire world. That's how I describe it. It shook my whole world and everything that I thought I had control of, and realized that I didn't. But we'll talk about that and how a spiritual awakening has been a complete blessing in my life. A spiritual awakening is a major wake-up call. My awakening happened when my daughter, who at the time was a freshman in college, had decided to join the Army. So my daughter calls me. It was hard enough worrying about her being away at school, but now she tells me that she wants to join the Army, which is fine, and I had no concept of what that was like. And I give so much, gratitude and accolades to people who are in the military. That's another thing in itself, and we're so grateful to have you and whatever you go through. But it's difficult. So she was in her basic training and struggling. As it's very difficult. It's very physically, mentally, and emotionally difficult to go through. At the same time, I feel that I was struggling with her. I had the missing her, worrying about her. I was excessively worrying about her, and probably feeling what she was feeling. So when I said we talk about being an empath on this channel, I'm also an empath, and at some point, I couldn't distinguish what was my suffering and her suffering. I know she was going through some major physical endurance tests and mentally trying to process the training, and myself was worrying about her getting through all of this. So I would write her letters, probably reinforcing her worry even more. I would write her letters. I'm so worried about you. Please be careful, as any mother would. I mean, we worry about our children, and we worry about our children to a point of ourselves being disabled and disabling them. So I would write her letters saying, I'm so worried about you. I hope you can do it. I'm here crying. I would cry every night. My husband was worried about me, saying, you're acting like she's dead. Like, stop it. This is too much. And it was. But for me at the time, I thought it was what any mother would do, and it was normal. At some point, she wrote me back telling me, please don't write anymore. And this was part of my awakening process. The first process was my child gone, letting her go and do her thing, and not being able to save her. So I had the awareness and the realization that no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, I could not go and save my child. And that's when the rug got pulled underneath me. That was part of my trigger, was I had no control. I had no control of saving my child that I owned, that belonged to me. When she wrote that letter to me telling me, Mom, please don't write, another part of the awakening occurred. Was I was disempowering my daughter. I was taking all my feelings, all my junk, my worry, and now dumping it on her. And she not only now had to worry about, or had to get through her training, but now she had to worry about me worrying about her, which was completely unfair. All these years, I thought I owned my children. I thought that, hey, I gave you life, now you give me respect and love, almost in a demanding way. I was almost demanding of it. Like, I did this for you, now do this for me. So I realized what I was doing to her, and it was unfair, And I didn't want her to doubt herself. I was disempowering her. I finally realized that. And when you have your awakening and your awareness, you realize the effect you have on other people around you. You realize how your insecurities and your doubts and your worries affect the other people that are really close to you. You know, they feed off of that. They sense that, and then especially if you're giving them some type of they owe you something. You know, love is unconditional. If you put conditions on your love, it's never natural. So after she wrote me, I told her, I woke up and I said, you know what? I love you, and don't worry about me. Do the best you can. I know you're amazing. Write me when you can. No conditions. I know you love me, and I love you. We already established that. And when you're able to, write me. Eventually, she graduated top of her class. She did amazing, and we're extremely close. So when that happened, I went into another stage of awakening, which was called bliss. I had to actually Google all of spiritual awakening symptoms, because when I had my trigger, when I was in my deep depression, missing my daughter and crying every day, suffering, wondering where I went wrong, I blamed everything on me. Where did I go wrong that she felt that she had to go away? It was all about me, ego. What did I do to her? How could I have stopped it? And I realized that she had her own path, and I had to step out of the way. And I'm not talking about addiction or abuse or relationships. I mean, if you're someone that's hurting themselves, or someone has addictions or is in an abusive relationship, you definitely need to step in. I'm not talking about something like that. I'm talking about their path. She's on her own path, and it was selfish and egotistical of me to even interfere with that. I had to let her go. And again, the love is unconditional, meaning she knows I love her. I'm her mother, I love her unconditionally. She owes me nothing. My children owe me nothing. And the less pressure and conditions I put on my children, the closer we have become, and the more mutual respect we have between each other. I cannot take my disappointments, my past fears, and now transfer it over to them. Like, hey, I have these fears and I have these incomplete goals. Now it's your responsibility to take those on. No, it's not. Everybody's on their own path. So then I was in my state of bliss, which was amazing. I was high, literally. I felt like I was high on drugs. I was singing, smiling, dancing. Nothing bothered me. My husband, actually, this was the best part. He enjoyed it. He was taken in by it. He noticed the shift in me too, and he noticed how I was in a really good mood, and I don't want to use the word positive. I know people say, "Oh, you're being so positive," and I know positive. People like to even diss being positive by toxic positivity. No, it wasn't like toxic positivity at all. It was complete bliss. Everything was brighter, clearer. I could see colors brighter. It was the connectedness. You were connected to everything. You had the realization that you were not in your self-creating hell, but you were connected to everything, and everything was connected to you. That was amazing. So that was another part of my awakening, was the bliss part. And then another part came up, which was called Dark Night of the Soul. Again, had to Google it, did not know what I was going through. The Dark Night of the Soul was pretty much bringing up junk that you had as a child, or other beliefs you've had about yourself, mostly negative, and you had to deal with. I'm unloved, I'm unappreciated, I'm not popular, I'm not beautiful, no one likes me. That kind of stuff you kind of had to deal with during the Dark Night of the Soul, which was after my bliss state. And I went through it, and the awakening helped me go through this Dark Night of the Soul, meaning I had awareness. I had to realize what people people don't make you feel a certain way. Things they say, it's how you take it. They say something that triggers a memory in you of how you felt about yourself. And I had that awareness. I used to blame people, my husband, my children, my parents, other people about how I felt about myself. And I realized that it wasn't, they're coming from, their opinions and what they used to do or say was coming from what they have learned. It was a vicious cycle when you think about it. But I had the Dark Night of the Soul kind of like bringing up some stuff and, clearing way for a new path. Dark Night of the Soul actually helps you pave a new path, a new life, a clean slate. It was almost like being reborn. I can definitely say my awakening was similar to feeling reborn. I felt like I was a new person. I stopped taking so many things personally. I stopped putting so many conditions on my family. I stopped putting so many, stopped ruminating in fears and ruminating in past disappointments and past memories, and realized that everything, I had control of my own life. I really did. And it was a blessing, and it was amazing. And it's amazing to see that when you go through your awakening, how people around you tend to change too, because it was a cycle. You kept putting conditions on each other and you kept blaming each other for stuff, but no. We all are in control of our own destiny in a way, but it's amazing. So at the last stage of awakening, and I'm still researching spiritual awakening, is I think finding purpose and paving your new path. Excuse me. Once you clear away the junk and you find your purpose, then you have a new path, and being okay with that. And it's self-discovery, and you're going to be finding your purpose maybe for years. Maybe you won't eventually find the one thing, but you'll find many things. You'll be kinder to people. You'll realize after your awakening, you also realize that certain things just don't sit with you well. Some types of, like, for me, I started looking into meditation. It just felt natural, and I wasn't into any of all this before my awakening. I didn't look into meditation. I didn't look into energy healing or anything like that. But after my awakening, it just naturally came. And I feel that was exposing your gifts during your awakening as well. After you've gone through that trigger, you've gone through the bliss and dark night of the soul, you'll find a gift. And your gift is you. Just being your most wonderful, authentic you. And that helps. It sounds corny, but it does help the world. It does help everything. It helps everyone else be a better version of themselves. If you're an authentic version of you, you help everyone else be an authentic version of themselves. And that's your gift. For me, I started getting into energy healing and meditation and helping other people learn how to meditate, manage stress. My husband, who's amazing, has been very open, which I was so grateful for, because you will have some relationships that tend to drop off. I've had some relationships where I have changed and these people were not very comfortable with my change because I was not a version that they wanted. Some people may like your version of despair and your living hell and your constant complaining, because maybe it gives them, misery loves company. Maybe it gives them something they can feed off of or feed into, or just feel better about themselves. So I've had some relationships that have drifted away, but I've also had some relationships that have become stronger. My relationship with my husband has become stronger. My children, my work relationships are amazing, doing amazing at work. I no longer get involved with gossip. Doesn't sit well. Talking bad about people doesn't sit well. Hate. I know we've been through a lot in 2020. There's been a lot going on, And it seemed very polarized. You know, you had one side, another side, and after an awakening, you find a very good balance. You don't feel comfortable with extreme polarities of, especially hate. They don't sit well because honestly, they're doing the same thing. You know, it just. But that's in a nutshell, my spiritual awakening story, what a spiritual awakening is. We're going to talk more on this channel about spirituality and spiritual awakening. I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Debbie, and today I'm enjoying a wonderful day out here and wanted to make this video and let everyone know that, or let people know they're not alone. I know it's scary. A spiritual awakening is a very scary process, but be patient. It's a wonderful process. I guarantee it. It'll change your life. Just don't fight it. That's another thing. During a spiritual awakening, do not fight it. The more you fight it, the harder it'll come. But we'll talk more and hope to see you back. Thank you.